Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Have you ever met someone with impeccable manners, but they weren't a very nice person? Or someone who's a little rough around the edges, but they would do anything to help a person in need? It makes you wonder, can you be polite without being good? Welcome to A Woman's Prerogative. Today, we're exploring the difference between manners, kindness, and character, and whether they are the same thing. Joining me today is my lovely and talented co-host, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck.
Hello, Amanda.
Welcome.
Thank you. I love this topic. Can you be polite without being good? When you came up with this, I thought that is so provocative. I love it.
It's not as simple a question as it would seem. And well, I was looking at it this weekend once we'd come up with it. And my husband said, well, you've got the answer to that. And I kind of had to look at him and go, actually, I don't know if I really do. It's not as simple and cut and dry as it seems. Dr. Jacalyn, I wonder, do you think people often confuse good manners with being a good person?
Yes, I think sometimes people can hide behind good manners, and it can be a facade or a charade, and people say all the right things, and then when you walk away, they bring out that knife, stab you right in the back. But they came across as being so polite and articulate.
I have to agree, and we all know somebody who has done that. The boss who is so sweet in front of the big group, but behind closed doors is not the kindest person and will rip you anew without even thinking about it. But then you'll find the people who, they don't have the greatest manners. They're, as I said in the intro, they're rough around the edges. Most people would look at them and go, oh, they're not going to be very great people. But they can hide sometimes the gentlest souls. And if you miss out on getting to know them, you're missing something very special. Have you ever met somebody like that?
Yes. Well, to the first part of what you just shared, I will never forget this. I went to church and I was driving into the parking lot and a space opened up and this person came out of nowhere and just took the space. And then when they got out of the car, I had the window open and I said, really, I've been waiting for this space. And they yelled an obscenity. And I thought, isn't that interesting? We're in the church parking lot. We're about to go into church. And that's how the person is acting. So I think especially religion. In fact, I wrote my book, Holy But Harmful, by the way, The Silent Sin of Judgment, that sometimes people can hide even in religion and they can have good manners, but at the same time, they're not practicing what they preach. So I really like when someone just is very upfront about who they are and what you can expect, because then you know who you're dealing with, you know your audience.
You know what? It's funny that well, it's not funny. Your church story isn't funny, but I've had very similar circumstances like that, where I'll be going to church and on the way out, somebody will cut you off and they'll honk their horn. I've had people who have gestured not so nicely towards as well, just because they wanted to be first. And I'll drive away then thinking, is this what we're going for? So that we can ask for forgiveness and then come out and be completely mean human beings. And that's not everyone. I was raised by my father and my grandfather were both ministers. And my grandfather would do absolutely anything for another human being. And to this day, people remember, when I go back to the church I grew up in, the stories I hear are all about his giant hugs and how he always had time to listen to people and a kind word, and that people loved being with my grandmother because she made them feel like they were part of the family and that they mattered. But I have other members of my family who were also ministers, and unfortunately, if it wasn't about them, then you were an enemy. And if you had nothing to give them or nothing that can promote them, they had no time for you. So it is very much what is under this getting kind of, we're all onions, right? The layers. But you do have to look beyond what you see sometimes. And that's not easy to do. Have you ever had that?
Absolutely. And Amanda, one of my favorite expressions that I've been using for a long time is when someone shows you who they are, believe them. So people can have proper etiquette and manners and use large words and be very articulate, but at some point the charade will be over. And one of the things I think that's so interesting is someone may present themselves one way in business, and then in another way, they're completely different. And what I mean by that, there's no judgment. In fact, I had a conversation with someone today about this. When we start judging people because of the choices that they make or the lifestyle that we have or they have, then we're getting into a whole new area. But when someone shows up and they are kind and respectful and gracious, we feel a certain connection toward them. And so we expect that they probably will show up like that over and over again until they don't. But when someone really isn't genuine, in my experience, they put on a face, they put on a mask, they put on a charade. And I'm not talking about the choices they make in their life. I'm talking about how they actually treat you as an individual. Because I think when we go beyond how someone treats us and we start evaluating how they're living their life, we're in a position of judgment. And I don't advocate for that, because every one of us is human and every one of us makes choices that might not be the same ones that other people make. But making the decision to be gracious to someone, to be respectful, to give the person a space to share something, I think that is a basic right that we all have. And I wish more people would embrace that, actually.
You're absolutely right. I don't think anyone deserves to be treated badly. I honestly don't. I think everyone, as you said, they deserve to be treated with compassion and kindness and treated as if they matter, no matter who they are. But I do think that we don't look very deep, but I wonder if you can't be truly good, or let me say that another way. I think those people who put on the facade of impeccable manners, kindness, they're the ones who will sweep people off their feet, but behind closed doors, they're not very nice. And I don't think someone who is not very nice can hide it for very long. I think eventually cracks are going to start showing, and their real personality is going to start slipping through. Take the boyfriend who They sweep you off your feet, they bring flowers, they're gentle, they're romantic in the dating stage. But once you've moved in or you've gotten married, the cracks start to show. And it can be little things like they didn't like dinner nice, or why are you wearing that outfit? It doesn't look very nice. Just little demeaning things which can become bigger things. But I truly think our real personalities can't be hidden for long. Would you agree with that, Dr. Jacalyn?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. I think because our emotions start manifesting and showing themselves. Take, for example, if you are tired, you're tired, you have a very short fuse, and it is difficult to hide how you're really feeling. Or if you are not feeling well, you feel run down, you feel sick, or you have just had some bad news, or maybe somebody you broke up with you, or something in your life didn't turn out the way that you thought it would. If you are not in control of your emotions, those emotions really manifest and come out. And then being nice and respectful to someone else is usually the first thing that goes out the window. And to your point, when you were just talking about getting into a relationship with someone and they've been one way and now you're in a committed relationship and they're another way, that happens a lot. And there is a name for it, which I'm not going to use, but it's because the person has a certain level of charm and charisma, and they basically reel you in. And then once they get you, they drop all of that. And what I've experienced, because I went through it myself, is basically a lack of self-esteem, a lack of worthiness, and just feeling like instead of being 5'3", I was 3'9". You just start shrinking and shrinking. And so now I know what the patterns are, I know what the signs are to look for, because many times people will be so overly interested and nice and just want to know everything about you. And it comes to a level where it's suspicious. It's overkill. And so we have to be careful, in my experience.
Dr. Jacalyn, thank you for sharing. And I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I grew up very similar to that. And it still amazes me to this day that nobody knew what was going on in my household. Right? People would see the image that we gave and they would think everything was grand. But that kind of control, that kind of abuse, it leaves a mark on you. And sometimes that, as you get older, as you become an adult, that comes through as a lack of confidence, as you said, and doubting yourself. And that when that comes across to other people, sometimes they read that as a weakness and they judge you for that, and they don't think that you're a good person because you second guess what you're about to say, or you don't trust. When somebody's being very kind to you, you instantly go on guard and become suspicious of what are their motives. And we have to be aware that people come from many different backgrounds, cultures, traditions, religions, and that shapes who they can be and how they're going to approach situations and introductions. And I honestly think we are so quick to judge that we don't take the time to actually get to know the person who is in front of us. And I'm not sure if there's a right answer on how to fix that other than having some patience and asking questions and taking that time to actually listen to them and see who they are for themselves. What would you recommend as a way to overcome some of those traumas and that are left from those situations?
The first thing I think is that we judge ourselves. I've shared many times I was raped, And I had gone off with a guy who was older than me, and I was in a bar. That's where he worked. I was underage. And of course, afterwards, I was told it was my fault because I was underage and I shouldn't have been there, which is very true. But for so many years, I just beat myself up because I just kept saying it was my own fault. And I truly believe that that's how I ended up with ulcerative colitis, because when you keep those kinds of feelings in and you feel like you've been judged by family and friends, and the first thing you have to do is you have to forgive yourself. And you have to forgive the other people who were involved. And sometimes the other people have already passed away. And so you have to make peace with it, because it's so interesting. I was just sharing this with someone today. I watched this movie last night called The Substance with Demi Moore. I don't even know how, because I don't watch TV. I turned the TV on and somehow this came up. And I thought, I don't know what this is. It looks weird. And I ended up watching it, except for the last 20 minutes, because it was so dark. I couldn't watch the last 20 minutes. But what I took away from it was, without giving any information about this program, is that we are, as humans, we're not perfect, but we're split down the middle sometimes, meaning that we love certain things about ourselves and we hate certain things about ourselves, or we can't stand certain things about ourselves. And it's almost like we're two different people, but we're only one person. And if we keep giving airtime, so to speak, to that part of us that we can't stand, that it overshadows the part of us that we love, then our quality of life is not as good as it could possibly be. So what I feel is, when we haven't done our shadow work, or we haven't done our personal professional development, we're very likely to judge other people, because there's something within us that is unresolved. And when we see someone else's situation, it evokes certain feelings of, in us, mainly fear and negativity. And going back to what you said, and then I'm going to turn it back over to you. Sometimes people have things that have happened to them. They have it locked up so tight and deeply inside them. They are terrified that someone will find out what they've gone through or how they're feeling. And so when they meet someone who might have a similar situation or something that reminds them of it, they immediately go on the offensive and they start judging the other person, because it's reminding them of something in their own life.
Wow. Dr. Jacalyn,
It's a lot, I know.
You completely blow me away. And I love everything you've just said. And I can't agree more. I think people fear what they're not willing to face. And almost no one wants to face the things that scare them or make them feel insecure or uncomfortable, because they would have to take a really deep look at why. And I love the two halves. That reminds me of the yin. Is it the yin and the yang?
Yes.
That everyone has good and they have bad. And that takes me back to something you said much earlier in the conversation about how when you're sick or you're tired, had a bad day, having to control the emotions so they don't come out wrong. And I'm guilty of that some days. My poor husband and children. If I'm not feeling well, I'm tired, or I get really stressed out, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, and my husband is probably laughing while he watches this, that doesn't always manifest itself in the most positive way. But the moment it comes out, it's like I go, oh my goodness, what have I done? Why have I done that? And I feel guilty almost instantly. And I apologize and I apologize, and I know I can't take it back. But my kids will usually go, Mom, we know you didn't mean it, because it doesn't happen often. It's okay. And I'll go, no, I need to learn from that. But some people don't, and they don't think there's anything wrong with lashing out and hurting people. And that's not okay. But what do you do about people when you run into people like that? How do you handle them? What do you do? Because sometimes you have to be around them. You have to deal with them at work. Or I worked in education for a lot of years, and sometimes you had a parent that loves to push their weight around, or not very nice, but you have to put on your smile and go, okay, I've got this, and treat them as you would anyone else. You don't want to treat them any different than I would treat the child next door or the person who I get on with really well, because then they're bringing you to their level. And that's not something you want either. Would you agree?
Very true.
Or,
yes, very true. I know before I retired from corporate, I was in the meetings and events space for a long time. And I would be on site with clients and the clients' clients and our staff. And after 12 hours, 15 hours, sometimes 18 hours if there were issues, the whole time you're like, hello, hello. And your face is about to crack off. And you hear, just like someone who works in customer service, you hear so many negative things because people love to share the negative things, right? When they're, especially if somebody has earned a trip, it's kind of like, well, I worked all year and I earned, and this is wrong and that is wrong. But the one thing that I really learned, and I believe that they teach this to people who, not every place, but it is a teaching skill in call centers. Because if you think about it, if you're in a call center, you're answering calls all day, people complaining. The first thing is you don't take it personally because it's not about you. And even though a person may be screaming and yelling and name calling, what I think is so interesting, and I've been party to this, is I just listen. I show no emotion whatsoever. And then just let them, they go on and on and on and on. And what's happening is you're actually witnessing a meltdown. The person is having a complete and utter meltdown. And at some point, if they have a conscience, they are going to be horrified at their own behavior. But if you engage, then it's like when I talk about starting a fire, and the fire needs oxygen to breathe. So if you're breathing and you are facilitating a back and forth with them, that argument is going to get higher and hotter and louder. But instead, you can choose not to engage. And then when they're finished, maybe they're making passive aggressive comments, which is complete judgment, by the way. When someone says, oh, I was only kidding. They weren't kidding. They meant it. They meant it. But how you receive the information and what you do with it is up to you. So for the topic today, can you be polite without being good? Absolutely. We can't control who is good at their core. And we can't control who is going to be polite. But what we can control is how we respond. So if someone insults you, you have a choice. Are you going to insult them back? I think it's so interesting. If someone says something negative to you and you just stand there, they don't know what to do because they have no one to debate with now. But you also have the option to not engage and to walk away. And that takes true courage and strength.
Absolutely. And that'll take it out of their sails as well, because they don't know what to do with somebody who's not giving them the reaction that they're looking for. We're going to go to a short break, but please don't go anywhere. When we come back, Dr. Jacalyn and I are going to continue our conversation and explore good manners and good character. And do they always go hand in hand? We'll be right back.
What if many of the problems we associate with aging are not random? What if there are identifiable causes behind declining energy, chronic disease, and memory problems? We have been told that aging is simply something we must accept, that slowing down is normal. that growing older means growing weaker. But what if that's only part of the story? Why do some people remain active and engaged well into their later years? Why do others struggle with disease, fatigue, and declining health? What is happening beneath the surface? What processes drive aging? In Aging Sucks, researcher, educator, and author Red O'Loughlin explores what researchers have discovered about why we grow older. No medical degree required, no confusing jargon, just clear explanations of what researchers have discovered about the processes that influence aging. You cannot stop aging, but understanding its causes may help you make better decisions about your health, your future, and your quality of life. Because understanding comes before action. Action creates hope. Aging sucks. End the guesswork. There is hope.
Welcome back to A Woman's Prerogative. I've had the honor of reading Red's book, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who would like to take the guesswork out of aging. Today, we're asking the question, can you be polite without being good? Before the break, we were talking about the difference between manners and character. And it made me think of something else. But before we get into that, I'd like to bring back my lovely co-host, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck.
Hello, hello, hello. By the way, I don't think our audience knows where you and I are located. Where are you right now?
I am currently located in Papua, Indonesia. Little island attached to the same island as Papua New Guinea, but I'm on the west side.
And I'm in New Jersey in the United States. So I just think it's so amazing that we can be in different parts of the world. It's morning there, yes?
It is. I'm not going to say bright. It's kind of windy, which is odd for here. But we've had a morning rainstorm. So everything's a little overcast and wet.
So it's Tuesday there and it's Monday here. I think that's really kind of amazing. So Amanda, when we were talking in the first part of the show about can you be polite without being good, I think we came up with the mutual consensus that you can be polite and not necessarily be good, and you can be good and not necessarily be polite. So what I'd like to know, you have a lot of experience with etiquette and manners, and actually the next program is called The Social Edge, and this is your flagship show. I'm very excited about this. So what would you say if you were actually going to be holding a training and this was the topic?
I would absolutely encourage everyone to always be polite. But I would, and I often do, I remind people that the basis of good manners and etiquette is remembering it's all about what I can do for the other person. Right? It's the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. What can I do to help them? And I have had people come back and go, oh, well, I can be nice to them, but what am I getting out of it? And I'll kind of go, okay, let's look at that. If you do something for someone and you expect it back, is that an act of kindness? Or is that a way for you to get something out of it, no matter what happens to the other person? I love working with children because they're like sponges and they just want to learn everything. And you can teach them how to go out and be kind to people, to help people, to hold that door, to compliment somebody on what they're wearing or how they're looking that day and mean it. And I think being a good person comes down to those things. It comes down to the kindness that you show, the respect that you give people, and being able to treat people as if they mean something and not expecting something back. Dr. Jacalyn, you speak to a lot of people about listening, and you're always trying to educate people. What is something you would tell them on that subject?
I think the first thing is they have to be open to receiving information. Not everyone is. And that's another thing about being polite. There can be circumstances where someone will act like they're interested. And I see this a lot in business. In order to get your attention, someone might act like they really are interested in what it is that you do. And then when you ask something of them, even to listen or engage, the whole situation changes because they had something in their mind, which is what they wanted. And that's why they were engaging in the first time. And if they don't feel like they're going to get it, then that changes the dynamics. So I feel like when we are at peace ourselves, when we have chosen not to live a life of drama, then we have more space to receive information, to receive feedback. And that in and of itself, to me, is the catalyst for then helping other people. If we feel like the whole world is about us, or that we've been wronged, or that we're a victim, we spend so much time in negative emotions that we don't really care about etiquette and manners. We don't care about walking in someone else's shoes. But when we have a completely different mindset, then all of those things resonate. And that's actually what we're doing here on this television network. Every person who's here has similar interests, that we are creating a legacy of education. And for people I've met with who are like, well, can I get rich doing this? And I tell them right away, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I'm not getting rich by doing it, but I am rich in here from doing it. And then that person might say, well, this isn't for me. And it's the same thing. If somebody's out for the bottom line, the dollar, then their interest may only be in what puts money in their bank account. What are your thoughts?
You know what? My thoughts are that I agree with you 100%. And unfortunately, we can't change people. They have to want to change themselves if they're one of these people that have the bad attitude or only think of themselves. They have to make the choice to reach out to other people and make it about more than just themselves. And that goes back to what we were talking about before the break, that can be scary. And we've covered that in a couple of our past episodes as well, that change is terrifying. But rewarding. You mentioned all the people that are involved in USA Global, our community. And they are some of the most amazing people that I've ever seen work or met, because they all want to help people. They're all doing shows to give out more information and to help people on a journey that some people aren't even aware that they're on. And that is a special gift. And honestly, Dr. Jacalyn, on behalf of all of us, thank you for doing that. And I'm not sure if anyone's ever said that to you, but thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. Because it would be very boring if it was just me here day and night. In fact, that's how I started out. I was doing 10 shows a day, standing for all of them. And I thought, I can't believe anyone's actually tuning in to hear another show with me on it.
fascinating shows, and I would highly encourage the viewers, if they haven't had the chance to go and explore the USA Global TV and Radio website, to please subscribe to our 2 YouTube channels, USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and take the time to explore some of the other programs as well that are on, because besides the Woman's Prerogative and the soon-to-come Social Edge, there are some wonderful programs, and you'll learn a lot, and they'll help you grow as well, which is what we're discussing today, is growth, whether you can grow to be a good person or not. But Dr. Jacalyn, I was thinking over the break, I was thinking about the things that we had discussed, and I had a thought. And, well, I was thinking that are good manners something that we're taught? Well, and character, is that something that we develop as we get older? And I was thinking about it while we were running the commercial, and I have a very mixed opinion on it. I honestly believe that we're born fairly selfish. I think as babies, I'm not sure what babies think about, honestly, but I almost guarantee it's not about the people around them, right? When when we're hungry, when we want to feed, when we're uncomfortable, when we need a diaper change, that's what we're thinking about. And even as toddlers, we're looking at the world around us, but from our own, we're thinking it revolves around us. But I think as we grow, a lot of our values are shaped by the people we come in contact with. Our parents, our grandparents, our friends, our teachers, and through them, we learn what's going to shape our character. I'm hoping from most, we learn kindness and empathy and respect, and often the manners that we are going to display for people. And I think that all comes into building our character. But having said that, I know that it's not as straightforward as that seems. There are people who have been raised in loving, caring homes that somehow don't make choices that reflect the values they were taught. But also there's people who grew up in difficult circumstances, who became incredibly hardworking and generous, compassionate adults. So while I think our upbringing plays a significant role, I don't think it tells the whole story. And at some point, I think we do have to take responsibility for our own choices. Do you think that there comes a point, Dr. Jacalyn, that in our lives, we can no longer blame our choices on our upbringing or things that have happened, and we have to start taking our own responsibility for who we are?
You read my mind. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's very easy to blame someone else or something else for where we are today. But the truth is, and I've said this quite often, that as long as there's air in our lungs and our mind is working, our body's working, and we can make conscious choices, that we get to choose something different. And if we grew up with etiquette and manners, we still are the ones who have to choose to demonstrate them, to embrace it and bring it into our life. And if we didn't, and we witnessed something that was completely the opposite, we have the ability to choose a different way. But when we're always standing on, if you think about standing on a platform, which is, it's his fault, it's her fault, my parents didn't do this, my spouse didn't do that. No, it's you. You have a choice to make. And so every day we make, I don't know how many decisions. I forget what the data is, but the number of conscious decisions and choices that we make. So we're the only ones who are accountable. And I think, again, when we work on ourselves and we hear someone blame something on someone else, we know right away, no, that's on you. We don't say anything, but we know you've got to do the work. And once you do the work, what I found is that it's very freeing, because it's almost like for so long you have this package of anger towards someone or something because they didn't give you what you needed. And maybe what you needed was love. Maybe what you needed was respect. Maybe what you needed was to be seen, and they didn't give you that because maybe nobody gave them that. Or maybe something happened in their life that they just decided they were going to be bitter and angry. But you don't have to make that choice. And what I say is give them grace, because they probably did the best they could do with what they know or what they knew. And again, it comes back to, until you're in someone else's shoes, you don't know what that situation feels like. And you make the choices that you make, whether it's from having all the information and processing it, or maybe it's from a complete emotional state. And when we are passing judgment on other people, in my opinion, that is not etiquette and manners. That is basically being in a low vibrational place as a human being and saying, you know what, I can't give you grace. I can't. And by the way, there's horrible things that happen in life. And you read these stories that someone killed a person's family member and they're in the courtroom and they say, you know what, I forgive you. Because if you don't forgive, you drag it around with yourself. It's like that bag of bricks. And until you put that bag of bricks down, you're never really free. So you think you're holding the grudge and all that anger towards someone else, but it's actually going in towards you because that person's not living with it every day. You are.
I just got an image. I love Christmas, and one of the movies my family watches every Christmas Eve is a version of the Christmas Carol. And while you were explaining the whole bag of bricks and pulling you down and how it'll eat, I got this image of Scrooge being visited by his old partner with all the chains from life weighing him down because of what he thought was important and what he couldn't let go. And that, Dr. Jacalyn, that was an extremely powerful thought. Because
well,
you're absolutely right.
What I remember about Scrooge, and I think it was the cartoon one that I was watching, is that he wanted to be loved. He wanted to be included. He wanted to feel like he was part of a community, and he didn't have that. So he acted out basically because he was lonely and he felt rejected. And that's what happens. We all have a need to be loved. But I have to share this as we close out. You've got to love yourself first. When Absolutely. I talked about the substance, this movie, and again, I'm not a paid spokesperson, but I highly recommend that people watch it because it is, it's really dark in a lot of ways. And as I mentioned, I couldn't watch the end of it, but the message is so spot on for all of us. If you don't love yourself and you spend so much time hating part of who you are or hating what you did, you are taking the gift that we now have, which we're living longer as human beings. We're living, I forget if it's 20 years longer on average, which is a gift. And you're going into the gift with all this anger and hatred that is only bringing you down. We all make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. We do the best that we can. We learn from it. If we're not learning from it and we're doing the same thing over and over again, that's another story. And are we doing it with with hatred in our heart? Or are we doing it just because we're humans and we're weak? Think of Adam and Eve and the apple. So they're my thoughts for today's episode. Can you be polite without being good?
Very powerful thoughts to end with. I love that. Dr. Jacalyn, you're right. We've come to the end of our time. Is there a way for people to contact you? And who would you like to hear from?
Thank you so much, Amanda. I would like for people to go to our website, which is usaglobaltv.com. You can see on the screen here, and you can learn all about our shows. You can learn about how to become a team member, and you can also book your session. Here it is right here. Just go to guest interview, book your interview, and you'll see all the shows that we have there, Amanda. usaglobaltv.com. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Perhaps the goal is not choosing between good manners or good character. Perhaps it's allowing our manners to reflect kindness and support and gratitude, integrity that already exists within us. And there's the thought I want to leave you with at the end of our show today. Thank you for joining us on A Woman's Prerogative as we discussed, can you be polite without being good? I am Amanda Holmstrom. I'm the founder of Silver Rose & Co. And through workshops and programs, I help build confidence, strengthen communication skills, and develop practical life skills that support people, whether they are in school, in the workforce, or trying to find what they are becoming. To learn more, please visit my website at silverroseco.ca. You can find me as well on LinkedIn under Amanda Holmstrom, HOLMSTROM. And you can also find Silver Rose & Co. on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you for joining us today on A Woman's Prerogative. We'll see you next week. Bye.
What happens when life tries to break you? When the pain is unimaginable, the losses are overwhelming, and every step forward feels impossible. There comes a moment, a choice. Will you surrender or will you rise? From breast cancer survivor to survivor of domestic abuse to inspiring thousands around the world, Verna Haywood shares a deeply personal journey of courage, healing, and transformation. This isn't just a story about surviving, it's about rediscovering your purpose, reclaiming your voice, and becoming stronger than the challenges you never asked for. Discover Unstoppable Resilience, Heal, Rise, and Reclaim Your Power by Verna Haywood. Continue the journey on the Unstoppable Life with Verna Haywood exclusively on USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/usaglobaltv. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by executive producer and director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.